My name is Nancy, 35 years old. I live with my husband Charles, who's 3 years older than me, and our 6-year-old daughter, Aurora. We've always lived with my in-laws since our marriage, but last year, we built our dream home on the same property as my in-laws. We get along well with my Phil and Mill, and living under the same roof was fine, but when I became pregnant with our second child, they kindly offered to let us build our own house on their land. My parents live a plane ride away, so having my supportive in-laws nearby is comforting. Aurora is very attached to them, so when our work runs late, they sometimes look after her. My Mill loves gardening, so we felt bad about the reduced garden space, but she said, at my age, a smaller garden is easier to manage. I started gardening after getting married. I had planned to grow summer veggies like cucumbers and tomatoes and radishes in the winter. My Mill showed interest and often helps me out, making it a fun activity for both of us. Aurora isn't very picky, helps by watering the plants and says to them, "Grow big and tasty." One evening, after finishing my part-time job, I found a girl sitting alone in front of my in-law's house. I hadn't seen her in the neighborhood before, so I approached her. "Hello. What are you doing here?" I tried speaking gently, but she just stared back without responding. Thinking my Mill might know something, I rang the doorbell. "Hello. Hi, it's me, Nancy. Just a moment." My Mill quickly came to the door. "Nancy, welcome back. What's up?" "Well, about this girl." "Huh?" My Mill looked out from the entrance and seemed surprised. Then after a moment of thought, she seemed to remember. "Are you Ivy?" "Huh?" Then, the girl, still sitting, silently handed over what seemed to be a tightly gripped piece of paper. All that was written was, "Going on an overseas trip. Take care of her. We'll pick her up when we return." Could it be Amy? Actually, my husband has an older sister. Her name is Amy. She attended our wedding but hasn't been seen since. Apparently, she distanced herself from the family during her rebellious phase, only briefly showing up to announce her marriage and pregnancy. I don't know her very well, but since she is family, I once asked my husband about her. But he replied with an indescribable expression, "You don't need to get close to her." I didn't press further, but who would have thought she'd leave her daughter at the doorstep and go on a trip overseas? Moreover, there was no mention of when they'd return. "When will she come back?" My Mill asked the downcast Ivy, who just replied by shaking her head. My Mill looked troubled but decided to bring Ivy inside since it was getting cold. I told my Mill that I'd go home first, contact my husband, bring Aurora, and come back. She looked at me with a pleading gaze and nodded. When I got home, it was time to pick up Aurora from her school bus. "Mom, I'm back." "Welcome back. Once we get home, we're heading over to Grandpa's house." "Got it." After bringing Aurora home and getting her changed, I called my husband. "Hello, what's up? Do you know Ivy? She's your sister's daughter." "I know of her, but she was left alone in front of your parents' home." "What? Your mother is taking care of her now, but I'm taking Aurora with me to help out." "All right, I'll try to get home early." "Okay, thanks." After hanging up, my Mill called right away. "Hello, Nancy. Do you have any spare clothes or underwear for kids? I think I have some of Aurora's that she hasn't worn yet. Could you bring them over?" "I'm on my way." After Aurora finished changing, I asked, "Can we give some of your clothes to Ivy?" "Who's Ivy?" "She's your cousin, and she's at Grandpa's right now." "Cousin? Sure." Aurora, intrigued by this new cousin, eagerly urged me to go. When we arrived, my Phil greeted us. "We're thinking of giving her a bath. Your Mill is preparing it." He led us to the living room where Ivy was sitting quietly. There, Ivy sat on the floor, having taken off her coat. Seeing Ivy, I understood why my Mill had asked for Aurora's clothes. Ivy's outfit looked like it hadn't been washed in days. Her hair was messy, indicating she hadn't bathed in a while. "Ivy, want to take a bath?" My Mill, having prepared the bath, came into the living room. "Shall we go together, Ivy?" Thinking I'd be better suited to help, I spoke up, and Ivy nodded, following my Mill and me. In the bathroom, my Mill gestured, "You can put her clothes in the washer." Ivy began to undress, and I was shocked by her appearance. Her ribs were visible, and her limbs were thin. She was clearly malnourished. Moreover, there were several bruises on her back and thighs, not from falling. This was probably. Feeling heartbroken, I focused on giving Ivy a bath. First, I shampooed her hair, then used conditioner. It started turning from coarse to smooth. As I scrubbed her skin, the dirt washed away, revealing a fair complexion. "All right, you can get in the tub now." Ivy hesitantly stepped into the warm water. She might have never been in a bathtub before. After a while, I heard her say, "This feels nice." I had thought she couldn't speak, so I looked at her in surprise. Realizing she had spoken, Ivy covered her mouth with a frightened look. Had she been scolded for speaking before? I gently stroked her head and said, "Baths are nice, right? Take your time and relax." Seemingly reassured, Ivy stayed in the tub for a while. After the bath, as I dressed her and dried her hair, she looked startled by the hairdryer's wind. "It'll dry your hair quickly, just bear with it for a bit." After brushing her hair, she looked thin but adorable. Back in the living room, my Phil was sitting on the couch, and Mimel and Aurora were preparing dinner in the kitchen. "You're back, Ivy. Dinner will be ready soon." Ivy then took out a cardboard box from her backpack. Wondering what she was up to, my Phil and I watched as she began to eat the cardboard. "Ivy, wait." I rushed to stop her. "What are you doing?" I had unintentionally raised my voice. She began to apologize. "I'm sorry. You said it was dinner time. I'll be good. Please don't hit me." "I'm sorry." Seeing her repeatedly apologize, I hugged her tightly. Understanding why she tried to eat cardboard and her fear of being scolded, I realized the meaning behind her bruises. Anger towards my sister-in-law and her husband welled up in me for leaving Ivy in this state. Then, Aurora said, "Ivy, let's eat together over there." "We all eat together." "Yes. Let's eat together. I made sandwiches for you." "Sandwiches? What's that?" "This." Aurora brought out a small sandwich from the kitchen. "This is for you." A puzzled Ivy looked at Aurora, who said, "You can eat it." Hesitantly, Ivy took a bite. "This is my first time eating bread. It's so good." Wait, her first time. In this day and age, a child who hasn't eaten bread. "Over here, we have side dishes that Grandma made. Want to eat together?" Encouraged by Aurora, Ivy took a seat at the dining table. "I've never seen this kind of food. Can I eat it?" "Yes. Grandma's cooking is delicious. I hope you like it." Everyone sat down and began to eat. I received a message from Charles. "I'm at the supermarket. Need anything? Maybe some dessert for Aurora and Ivy." "Got it. I'll bring it to the family home." At the table, Mimel was talking to Ivy. "You said it was your first time eating bread. What do you usually eat at home?" "Well, cardboard and some grass I find outside. But sometimes I get crackers or instant noodles." "Do your parents eat the same?" "I've never eaten with my parents, so I don't know." Ivy spoke as if this was completely normal. "Do you know how old you are, Ivy? Do you go to kindergarten or preschool?" "I'm 6, what about it?" I was taken aback by Ivy's age. "You're 6, Ivy. Aurora is also 6. She's 6 and hasn't been to kindergarten or preschool. I wonder what they have her doing at home." "What do you usually do during the day?" "Well, I always stay inside a cardboard box. I can only come out to go to the bathroom. There's a blanket inside, so I nap and listen to the TV. I'm not allowed to make any noise." "What happens if you make noise or come out of the box without permission?" "My mom and dad would hit me." That explained the bruises I saw when she bathed. It became clear that Ivy had been unjustly abused by her mom and dad. But again, the cardboard box. It's like they're treating her like a cat. Keeping such a young child in a box without letting her interact with anyone else is a complete failure as parents, or even as human beings. There might be even worse things happening to her, but seeing her happily eating with Aurora, I didn't want to make her recall any more painful memories, so I stopped asking. My Phil was silently listening to our conversation. He listened quietly, looking both sad and angry. Then, my husband came home. "I'm back." Ivy stiffened at the sudden appearance of a man. "Welcome back, Daddy." "Ivy, this is my dad. It's okay, he's not scary." Aurora seemed to understand why Ivy was startled. "Hi Ivy, I'm Uncle Charles. Nice to meet you. Hello. Ivy gave a hesitant smile and looked at Aurora. It's okay. There was a bond forming between the two girls that we couldn't understand. Charles handed a shopping bag to Aurora. There's cake and cream puffs inside. You can eat them while watching TV at that table over there, and directed the kids to the living room. Back at the dining table, the conversation turned to Ivy and her parents. I heard she was left at the doorstep. What's going on? It seems Ivy has been abused by Amy and her husband. She even tried to eat cardboard earlier. She doesn't seem to bathe often either. When I bathed her, I saw bruises on her back and thighs. She said she gets hit. She spends her days inside a cardboard box. Ivy is being neglected and abused. I can't believe this. Amy. My Phil muttered his daughter's name and stood up, heading somewhere. Charles followed him out. Dad, Charles, where are you going? We're going to the police to report this. They are criminals. My Phil replied in a quiet, angry voice. We can't let this go. This isn't something humans do. In that case, I'll go with you, Father. I was the one who actually saw the bruises. Charles, you haven't had dinner yet, right? My Phil hadn't actually seen Ivy's bruises. It would probably be faster if I acted as a witness. With that thought, I decided to leave the kids with my Mill and my husband, and I headed to the police station with my Phil. At the police station, they were very understanding and listened to our story. When we consulted with Child Protective Services, we learned that my sister-in-law and her husband had been on their radar for some time. Apparently, there were several reports from neighbors about hearing voices crying out, I'm sorry, and loud sobbing. Even when the staff from Child Protective Services tried to visit, my sister-in-law stubbornly tried to hide Ivy. The staff told us that thanks to our report to the police, they would now be able to meet with Ivy. We didn't know when my sister-in-law and her husband would return. Until then, Ivy would stay with us. While I was at work, my Mill would take care of her. Seeing how well Ivy and Aurora got along, we decided to put off placing Ivy in a child care facility, at least until we figure out what will happen to my sister-in-law and her husband. Aurora and Ivy are the same age, but Ivy is a bit smaller, so Aurora seems to feel like she's gained a younger sister. Whether it's mealtime, bath time, playtime, or bedtime, Aurora never leaves Ivy's side. Aurora has always had a strong sense of justice and even mediates fights among her friends, but her desire to protect Ivy seems especially strong. We took Ivy shopping on a day off. We needed to buy her clothes that fit and other necessities for her new life. Ivy was amazed by the large crowds and big buildings, but Aurora and her held hands, with Aurora telling her, "You can't leave my side, okay?" Ivy seemed happy. By the end of the week, she was showing us her sweet smile. Aurora and Ivy sleep together as if they were real sisters. About a week later, on a day I had off from work, my Mill rushed to our house. Nancy, Amy is coming to pick her up. My sister-in-law had called her parents' house, and my Mill had asked her what time she would be coming, but she only conveyed her message and hung up. However, from the background noise, it seemed she was at an airport or a large train station, and that's what my Mill came to tell me. My Mill said that when she told my Phil, he told her to call the police. I immediately called the nearest police station and explained the situation. They agreed to discreetly park a patrol car nearby and wait. A few hours later, when my sister-in-law and her husband came to pick up Ivy, they were immediately taken into custody by the police. The charge against them was child abandonment, the crime of abusing Ivy. It's a very serious one. During the investigation, both of them claimed that the other was the mastermind behind the abuse and that they had just been going along with it, trying to shift the blame and avoid responsibility. There was no mention of "I'm sorry" or any sign of remorse. They probably abused their own child because they only care about themselves. It's an unforgivable act. It's almost certain that my sister-in-law and her husband will be arrested and sent to prison. As for the future, there was talk of Ivy going to an orphanage. While I felt like taking her in, I decided to leave the decision to my in-laws and husband. After much discussion, my Phil and my Mill decided to adopt Ivy. Of course, our family will fully support them. This means Ivy won't need to go to an orphanage. Ivy also told us she didn't want to be separated from us. It's only been about 2 weeks, but I'm so glad Ivy seems to trust us. Ivy doesn't ask anything about her biological parents, my sister-in-law, and her husband. She might want to leave her painful past behind and enjoy her new life. Later on, my sister-in-law and her husband were sentenced and sent to prison. They got 3 years. While people might not change, I truly hope they reflect on their actions. After that, my parents-in-laws filed for compensation on Ivy's behalf. After my sister-in-law and her husband served their time and was released from prison, my parents-in-law intended to have them pay a lump sum in cash. My parents-in-laws were determined not to let them escape, so there's no way they can run away. We're also considering a restraining order to ensure Ivy's safety. On the other hand, Ivy, who has now officially become the adopted child of my parents-in-laws, will be attending the same kindergarten as Aurora. Next year, they'll both be attending the same elementary school. At kindergarten, Ivy always sticks close to Aurora, but Aurora, who has many friends, keeps introducing her to new people. Every day, they tell us about who they played with. They're always chatting away, making things a bit noisy, but it's great to see them so happy. Ivy is still petite, but she's starting to fill out a bit. I believe she'll grow taller in the future. She's also taken an interest in the family garden located between our house and my in-laws. The other day, she and Aurora helped weed it. Seeing my growing belly, Ivy is excited as if she's getting a little sister. I think the baby in my belly will be happy to have 2 older sisters like Aurora and Ivy. I'll do my best to be an adult who can protect our children.